Hey Deborah, this looks really good already. You probably don't even have to do a lot more for this week, so don't really stress too hard on it. But for the future, just a few suggestions, mainly having to do with negative space and visual hierarchy. You have to have some place to put the text of the city name. And I would also suggest using the gradient not in this direction, but in this direction because it'll just look more realistic. And I think the sky usually is lighter at the top, so I just think it would look, just a little bit more realistic. In terms of the city, I mean, you can have a look at some of these. Some of them aren't very good. I mean, I usually don't post all good ones. But this one's pretty good. They should have made Illinois smaller just because, it's just as strong as Chicago, and you really want it to stand out. You don't really have to put the names of stuff in. You can. So let's see what else here. Again, this type is not very readable because it's over these objects. So you want to have negative space, and a dark on dark's not legible at all. So I wouldn't go. Let me see what other one's decent. Yeah, he really messed up on the type, but the design's really cool. Yeah, this one has too much negative space. Um, this is okay. And again, the size relationships are good. If you're going to make a tagline like this, the smaller type, just make it smaller. And I wouldn't center it. It just doesn't. Centering never really looks that great. And again, this is a really nice one. It has a good amount of negative space, but again, the text should have, if it's going to be up here in the dark, it should have been lighter color like white. But again, see this sky here? It looks kind of cool because the gradient, it's lighter to darker at the top. Let's see. Yeah, this one's not very good. The text is not too great. And this text is not readable. Too much of it, whatever. So anyway, that's what I would suggest. A few little pointers to think about visual hierarchy. If you make things bigger, they're going to come forward. So I think this is a little bit too much. It's pretty dominating. But again, if you make what's in the background smaller, it's going to recede. It's going to actually look like it's further away. So you could do that, but I think overall there's just too many of these things. I would just really get rid of a lot of them, but but again, if you move stuff around, and just delete some of it, it's gonna look better just because, again, the laws of perspective say objects that are closer are bigger. So you could make these a lot bigger and just keep a few of them. But I don't know, you might want to rethink all of that, or you might want to just, it's just kind of, yeah, I don't know what to think about it. I think it needs to integrate more with the picture plane, and that's kind of the big issue with all of these things, and they're pretty dominant. So, I mean, maybe you could lower the transparency, and that will kind of or the opacity, maybe that would kind of make it recede a little bit more. You could do that. I'm going to move these out of the way. I don't know. Something that's too light though. So again, the last week is really tweaking all this stuff. I would just think of another solution for this. That would be my choice. And again, with if you want this to look like it has more depth, I would give it some perspective. And I'm not sure that I haven't used perspective. Yeah, I see they have the perspective, but it's grayed out, so I'll have to look into that. Usually I use this tool in Photoshop because it works really well. You could always export it and bring it back in if you wanted to. But yeah, the perspective tool allows you to so what you'd want to do is make this side bigger, so this side's smaller. And so you can't do it with everything constrains in Illustrator. So yeah. So to get to fit the text in, you're probably going to have to move some of this stuff down and scale it. I mean, you could take the oh, is it doing all of it? You could take this too and bring it down, like here more, and then make it bigger. Because again, objects in the foreground look bigger. Oh shoot, what happened? Okay. Um, and again, you can have overlapping things. It actually looks good, and you can have it also coming outside of the picture plane. Just because the overlap actually creates depth. So just some things to think about. Again, you could bring, I mean, if you brought this down and did the perspective thing, and I don't know if you don't, let me see, I know someone did it really well. Yeah, you can see how this is getting smaller, and it just really adds to the perspective. I think he did this in Photoshop and brought it back in with Illustrator. So that's what, I'd suggest doing some things like that. Also if you really want it like to look further away too, you can make, this brown part, slightly different too, because if it's, and again, you can study other artworks and so on, or other even photos, and see how to make things look like they're further away, other than just using this scale and perspective stuff, because usually it gets blurrier when it's further away, and it gets either darker or lighter depending on the lighting. So that's also something you might want to think about. You could use a slight texture, and if you did that, you would have the texture up here being a lot bigger. Texture also has perspective. So anyway, I hope this helps. I really like all your graphics. You're just going to have to think of visual hierarchy, think of negative space, and again, I would work with the gradient in the back as well. But overall, I think you've done a really nice job. And I'm not saying to do this with the palm tree. You could even put it over here. I'm just saying that it has more depth, and repetition's good, because then the eye kind of moves around through the repetition of form. So if you see this again someplace, I mean, you could even add a little tiny one over here, but again, once you get rid of some of these blue things, it's going to be a lot cleaner, and you'll be able to really look at how you want to do it as well. So okay, so overall, nice job. Okay, oh, I just wanted to do your map real quick. So, yeah, it's too bad you didn't use the same city. I tried to emphasize that. It's not, I mean, I wouldn't change it now, but just overall, if you have pieces that are consistent and more pieces that are kind of addressing the same theme, it makes a good portfolio piece. So with your map, what I would suggest still is just mostly some cleanup. I wouldn't jam all these together right here. I would definitely put the fairy down here, but just not right on the bottom. Some of the names could be rotated slightly so they fit inside the white. And again, this is minute stuff, but again, all this kind of stuff in the design industry is really important. Attention to detail is super important, and so does neat and refined appearance. So that's one reason I try to be a stickler about it, because people don't realize that you want everything really super perfect for your portfolio. And again, this is stuff too you can do after the class. It's not like you have to do it all now. So with this Pike Market square around it, I would get rid of that, or make sure that it fits into it. I mean, you could use something that unifies everything, like, let's see if I can find, back out here, just some examples. Oh, and here's some examples of city posters. If I don't know if you had a chance to look at them, but again, see the gradient in the sky. Again, these are all kind of vintage looking one, but you can get some good ideas about this and how the layering creates, and the color's really excellent too. I mean, you could even do something like this. You just need to color your objects differently and move them around a little bit differently. But see what creates unity with this is that you've got you know, the negative space is dealt with beautifully, and you've got some repetition of color and texture and so on. I don't like that one that much. Again, I like this one too. And notice the negative space, and notice even they use this overlapping the clouds, but it really works because it's the clouds are really pretty mute, and there's no big outline or anything on them. But actually, that's not what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you the student stuff. Darn it, is up here then? This is going to be a huge file that I upload. These video things are huge. Okay, here the map. So for your legend, I would make the text smaller so it kind of fits in that. He should have aligned this, but he didn't. But again, or you could add some kind of, I wouldn't say copy this. A lot of people in the class already totally tried to copy this poster, but if you make some kind of, you know, enclosure, it really looks consistent. Again, because you've got the repetition of all these forms and here too. So what it does is it really, you know, it creates unity, and it also looks very consistent and neat. This one way too small, icons. Again, circles, you know, I mean, not as nice as the other ones, but they look very clean. I think that's the only one. This one labels with these, and they're consistent as well. So again, there's just ways to create consistency. Where's your poster? I still would probably work with the text a little bit. You know, this is actually, I kind of like it. It kind of looks kind of like Seahawks font, so that's kind of cool too. So that would be my main suggestion. Your legend's also kind of big, so you could shrink this down a little bit, and then, you know, you could just, I like your alignment, but I would move all of it over just a couple pixels so this one here isn't so close to the turtle. Okay, so anyway, I hope this helps, and yeah, just consistency and some cleanup, and you know, you'll be fine. Okay.